Hello everyone, welcome back to Motuts, Motion Made Easy. My name is Jon Navarro, and today we'll be bringing you the third and potentially final installment of our Godzilla title tutorial series. And the movie will be released in just about a week or so, so I'm very excited. Let's jump right into it because this one's pretty simple. Now this is inspired by the trailer, and so as you could see in our opening, I just want to scrub through here real quick. In the trailer we have the title pops on, boom, boom, boom. Then there's a jump forward. So this was pretty simple, and the clouds and stuff I added because the title was really just this title effect against a black background, which was very plain. So I added the smoke and stuff to kind of try and mirror what the poster art looked like. So this is actually a combination of a title based on the poster art as well as the trailer. So let's jump into it. Let's begin by starting a new motion project. As usual, we'll be making this 1080p HD. Set this to 24 frames per second. I'm gonna leave this at 10 seconds even though the animation really only needs to be about 5 seconds. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is create our groups. One group for the title, one group for the smoke, and then one group for the lights. So our smoke is going to be in the background. In the middle is going to be our titles. And the foreground is going to be our sparks. Over top all of it, we're going to have our lights. Create a camera. That'll make this entire composition 3D. And let's fit everything into the preview and shift V so that we can see anything that falls outside of the preview boundaries. I want to leave the smoke for last. Let's just get into the titles. Select the title tool. Start with the first title, Godzilla. Click out. Select the title tool again. We're going to do Option Dash VS Option Dash. Click out. Select the title tool again and then type in Kong. Now for the sake of expediting this tutorial, I'm going to select all 3 layers and just make them the same font. And we're just going to make this a Arial font. Again, just to simplify this, you can use any font that you want. I could not find the actual font that was used for this title, so I used a combination of fonts to try to create the same effect. So let's go into properties, let's reset everything, and let's go into text. Let's make everything centered. All right, and then we'll just separate these one by one. So with the Godzilla, move this up 100, and the Kong layer selected, move this down 100. Now let's just go back into the text. I want to resize this a little bit. So 200 looks good. Then let's select the Kong layer. This one will probably need to be a little bit bigger. Looks like 350, 360. So now we'll adjust the anchor point. We'll say 140 and minus 125. Push that down a little bit further. Now let's select the verses layer and let's just move that up a little bit. We'll say 25. Now what I want to do is double click the verses and then select the first dash. Go into the text tab, go into scale, and we're going to increase the X scale. We're going to increase that till it's about, let's say 1600. Now select the second dash, do the same thing, increase the X scale to 1600. It actually looks like it could be longer, but again, for the sake of this tutorial, you get the idea. You want to adjust the vertical scale of this so that it goes from the beginning of the title to the end of the title. Okay, we also want to increase the Y scale so that the thickness matches somewhat, and then we're going to adjust the baseline back down. Just crank that up to 400 and adjust the baseline to minus 30. Alright, so we have our basic title created. Now what I want to do is I want to select all 3 titles. I want to go into appearance and I want to change this to 3D. And this is how we're going to get our texture. So let's go down to material and let's change this to metal. and old steel. Okay, we instantly have our steel textured title, similar to what we saw in the trailer. And now we just want to make a couple more adjustments here. We want the depth direction to be backwards, and then we want to change the edge to be square, and we want the back edge to be the same as the front. And then for the inside corners, we want those to be mitered. And for the lighting, we want to change the lighting to medium center and turn on self shadows. And then for the environment, we want to change the environment from field to colorful, and we want to change the rotation of this to 45 degrees. So now that the text is done, let's animate the text so that we get the same animation. So what we're going to do is, this is going to be staggered 8 frames until we get to our 24 frames. That's 24 frames per second divided by 3. So select the Godzilla layer, go to the 8 frames point, hit I for in, select the versus layer, go to the 16 frames point, hit I for end, and go to the Kong layer and the 1 second point, hit I for end. So if we play this back, you'll see it pops on, boom, 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 just like in the trailer we have. And so now we just need to animate the camera. Let's hit the record button. Let's select the camera. And at the 1 second mark is when it jumps into this position, right? So let's just double click our position tool to create a keyframe. And then let's go back to the beginning. We want to see this a little bit. And we want this to be further away from us. We'll say right there is good. So let's turn off the record. Let's delete this first keyframe. And then let's drag this opening keyframe to the beginning. So now if we play this back, boom, 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 you'll see that we need one more keyframe there. And let's go into the camera properties, go back to this previous keyframe, and if we open up position, see that it's 700. So let's go to that next keyframe and let's make the Z position 700. And so now when we play this back, we get the boom, 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 and then the jump. Perfect. So that's really the title, right? So this was all that was in the trailer. So if that's all you really want, you can stop here. I wanted to stylize this a little bit more. So what I did was I decided to add some smoke. So let's lock off this text layer because that's done. Let's go into the smoke layer. Then what I want to do is go into the library, go into particle emitters, smoke, and then I selected the shooting smoke. Okay, well, let's go to the beginning. Let's add that, click apply. If you play through, you see that there's some small shooting smoke. We're going to adjust this. So the first thing we want to do is at 2 seconds, when this is fully rising, we want to drag this over because we already want the smoke up. Then go to the end of the timeline, hit O for out. Then what I want to do is I want to hit Command D to duplicate this. And now I want to just put my smoke on opposite sides of the screen. So this top one, I'll just call left, and this bottom one, I'll just call right. And let's go into properties. And for the right one, let's move this over 960. And for the left one, let's move this on the x-axis minus 960. Okay, we also want to rotate this. So let's rotate this 270 degrees. And then for the right one, we're going to rotate this 90 degrees. So now let's go into the emitter and we want to adjust some of these settings. The first thing I want to do, I want to change this from point to line. I want to make this a 3D. And what I want to do is I want to change the Y. So we'll make the Y 800. And then let's change the emission range to 180 degrees. And let's make the angle randomness 30 degrees. I want my scale to be 500% and my scale randomness to be 100. So you'll notice when I move this back that the smoke moved, and that's because it was a 3D layer. So let's make that a 2D layer, and now the smoke stays positioned where we want it. So what we also want to do is we want this smoke to spread across the full width of the screen. So let's increase, I want to increase the life to 2, the life randomness to 1, the birth randomness to 30, and let's increase the speed to 300 and speed randomness to 30. So now that we have that first smoke layer created, actually what I want to do so I don't have to redo this, let's delete that first one. Let's duplicate this one and then move everything over to the right, minus 960, and rotate this 270 degrees. So now with this left copy, we're going to make the left the blue. So let's go into the color range and click on the white and change that to the turquoise. And let's go into the right, go into color range and change this to red. So now we have our smoke and we have our animation, and that's pretty much it. Now what I did here with the lights and the spark, we can close this now. And so what I did is I added some sparks just to give it a little more dimension. Go into library, and what we want to do is go into content and then just search, type in spark. You'll see there's various sparks in here. I kind of like this one. So let's take the Spark 7 PNG. Let's click apply. Let's go to the beginning of the timeline and hit I. And then what I want to do is I want to type E for emitter. And now you'll see that it sends a bunch of sparks out. And so now we'll just go into the inspector and we'll change this to line. And what I want this to do is I want this to start at plus 900. And we'll say negative 600 on the Y. And then I want this to go to negative 900 on the X. Okay, so now we'll just change some of this up. I don't need 30, so we'll change the birth rate to 5. Just need a couple of these. The birth random can also be 5. Set the life random to 10. And then we want these to spin. So we want them to spin, we'll say 180 degrees, and then give it 180 degrees of randomness. And then what we also want to do here is we want to change the color mode. So change the color mode to color over life. And let's pick desert sun. So we get some nice looking sparks over here. And then for the scale, let's reduce the scale until these just look like very small sparks. We'll say 50% looks about right. And then let's give it a scale randomness of 50. So now if we go to the beginning, we play this back, boom, 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 jump, and you can see there's some sparks floating around. And the last thing that I'm going to do here, I'm going to add 3 lights, and all 3 lights are going to be point lights, but we're going to match the light to the color of the smoke. So this first light we'll call blue, this middle light we'll call neutral, and this third light we'll call red. So for the blue light, make that blue. So we're going to turn this to turquoise color. We're going to drag this over to the right. In the properties, we'll say minus 700 on the X. We want the fall off to be 5, the fall off start to be, we want the fall off start to be 5, the fall off to be 10, and then we want the diameter to be 70. For this neutral one, we're going to change this to tungsten, and the same thing, fall off start 5, fall off 10, and the diameter here we can leave at 10. Also make sure that shadows is checked for all 3 lights. Okay, now for this red one, change that to red, and same thing, fall off start 5, fall off 10, diameter 70, and turn on shadows. So you're not really noticing too much, and I think you can see some of the color bleeding here. And the reason for that is that we need to turn off the lights inside the actual title layer. So let's unlock the title, go into the title layer. Let's select all 3 of our titles, and then under lighting, we're going to turn this off. And so now you see we have some color. It's a little dark now though, so what we have to do is go back into our lights. I'm going to select these. These should all be in the lights group. And let's increase the intensity. There we go. This neutral one, I don't want that bright, so let's put that back at 100. And the red one, I think I maybe want that. Let's do 600, and let's move that over to the right. So we'll say plus 700 on the X. And there you go. That looks more close to what we had before. Now let's get that neutral, and let's turn the neutral, crank the neutral one up to 400. And that's it, guys. So that's our title. Our Godzilla King of Monsters title tutorial is complete. I hope you all learned something. If you enjoyed this content, please don't forget to click the like and subscribe button. Also, we'd love to engage in a conversation, so if you have any questions, please leave those in the comments section below. Don't forget to tune in every Monday for our Motion Mondays. And until then, everybody, let me know what you think of the new Godzilla vs. Kong movie when it's released, and I'll see you next time. Take care.